Well, I'm going to debut a new take. Eagles. 49ers light. Okay. Just debuting it. The Eagles are a little bit like the club when you, down the street from the club you want to go into. But then you're like, you can't come in here with like 4 dudes. What are you doing? I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go down the street to the other club, which isn't as good as the hot club, but you're still in having a good time. Lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, 2 great pass catchers, and Saquon Barkley. You know what people are calling Saquon Barkley? Christian McCaffrey-esque.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just saying, Christian McCaffrey-esque. So the offense very similar. The defense, however, I don't think as similar. But I'm leaning on Coach with his 3 Super Bowl rings, much like you leaned on Coach and ignored his vice of running the ball until you started to play college football. Coach has convinced me that Vic Fangio will solve any roster deficiencies on the defense. Coach, you have to back me up here.
I think he'll make a lot of the deficiencies smaller than they were, but they also did a nice job of trying to address the secondary through the draft and free agency.
Okay.
So those 2 things combined, you should see a significant jump.
So here, one of the things that has been the Eagles' calling card the last few years is either the best or the second best offensive line in the league. It's not just the loss of maybe the best center ever, certainly the best center in the last 25 years in Jason Kelce, the player, but he's calling out the protections. He's communicating. That now all is going to fall, I think, on Jalen Hurts. It's certainly not going to fall, I don't think, on Cam Jurgens, who's stepping in for him. So that concerns me. I am not as high on Saquon Barkley as everyone else, most notably because I didn't stop watching him when he left Penn State or after his rookie year with the Giants. And the defense, I think long-term, those were smart draft picks. I think if you're like, hey, you know what's going to solve our secondary? 2 rookies, a rookie corner and a rookie safety. Those are tough positions.
It'll take some time.
So for all those reasons, that's why they're all.
Okay. I want to unpack this very quickly. I want to keep this video a little bit shorter because there's just too much overlap in previous videos. But again, his blatant criticism of Saquon Barkley is so old and so absurd at this point because I already brought up a clip. I did a whole video about it where he was praising Saquon, saying last season, Saquon Barkley, that the Dallas Cowboys should try to get Saquon Barkley to help get them over into the Super Bowl, right? He was saying that that would be a huge splash move. So the fact that now that Saquon's with the Eagles, somehow Saquon Barkley is just not good. He's just not good, doesn't even think he's a top 5 back, and doesn't think that he's an upgrade from Swift, which is just insane. That's just insanity. I'm going to say it one more time. That's insanity. Okay, and now this other idea that the Eagles their big calling card was their offensive line. Yes, it was a huge strength, but first off, it wasn't just because of Kelce. Yes, Kelce is absolutely positively one of the greatest, if not best centers in the history of the NFL. Not debating against that, right? I'm not disagreeing with that. So losing him will be, the potential to be an issue, but the Eagles have been planning for this for years. They've worked closely with Kelce to get his replacement up to speed, right? Kelce is a true lifelong Philadelphia Eagle. That is who he is. To his core, his whole family, himself, that is who he is. He wants the Eagles to continue to succeed. He gave everything, all the information. He wasn't holding back. This wasn't one of those things where he was just like, oh yeah, I guess I'll kind of like help, get my replacement going or whatever, or, kind of keep them at arm's length. No. He sees it as continuing this franchise. He didn't just leave. He didn't just retire suddenly and disappear. He didn't just randomly go to a different team, right? He's been continually with the Eagles. I mean, he's practically a coach at this point, honestly. Right? He's been giving speeches, talking to the players, helping them. So, he has been insanely involved. And if you want to argue against that, especially for you guys who are just obsessed with Nick Wright, and anytime I ever say anything negative about Nick Wright, you're like, you're just a Nick Wright hater. You're just a Nick Wright hater. Nick Wright essentially said the same thing about Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce's brother, about the tight end that the Chiefs drafted. And so that Travis Kelce is going to be able to give that secret sauce to his replacement. So please tell me why Travis Kelce can do that to the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, but somehow Jason Kelce can't do that for the Eagles replacement for the Sander. I want to know why that. Why is that the case? And if you want to say, oh, well, it's just because of what made Jason Kelce was special was you can't really teach it, well, then you can make the exact same argument for Travis Kelce. And then I know you back in the corner for some of these other people that want to say that Travis Kelce wasn't that great until Patrick Mahomes got there. Well, then again, then you have to then say, well, then you're just never going to, then you'll still have to then say that the Nick Wright's point was fundamentally wrong then, because then there's nothing that Travis Kelce can do to, boost up the center for his ultimate replacement. So again, the Eagles throughout the last, I don't even know, man, 10, 15 plus years, they have always gotten their replacements again and again and again. They've always found a way to get the replacement for their great players. Their GM always drafts unbelievably well. The players are always developed unbelievably well. So this idea that it's just that this offensive line is now just going to, if anything, I have more concerns about maybe like the age of Lane Johnson, right? If anything, and just because it's just like that he always feels like he's just an injury away, and then that would be a bigger loss to me. That's the way how I kind of read it more than anything. But this other idea too, that like Jalen Hurts is just like incapable of running an offense. Oh my God, that's just so disrespectful. It really is. It's so insane. Just watch what he was able to do when he had an actual competent offensive coordinator and the things that he was able to do. Right? To act like he just kind of showed up and just let the pieces around him and just let like Kelce just kind of call out everything and Jalen Hurts was just like, okay, I'm just gonna kind of go along with it. Like he was just like a non-playable character for a Madden game or something. Like it's just blatant disrespect to Jalen Hurts. And nothing in his career, whether it be high school, college, or NFL, presents that to be a valid truth for him. It just makes no sense. And Nick Wright is so quarterback driven in terms of top rosters. And he said that he thinks that Brock Purdy's not a good quarterback, right? Bottom 16 is what he said. And I know he thinks that if essentially Jalen Hurts is there as well. And yet you can't argue that when Jalen Hurts was healthy, had a competent play caller, they had the roster in 22, and Jalen Hurts absolutely balled out. It's undeniable. He was going to be the MVP until he got injured. Only people who are incredibly biased or mega Patrick Mahomes fans could argue that. Okay? Then in the Super Bowl, he absolutely balled out against none other than the Kansas City Chiefs. So to think that Jalen Hurts would somehow be a limited factor, because when we have a quarterback who we claim is a limiting factor, they can't take their team to that next level. And you could say Brock Purdy was unable to take that roster to the next level in the Super Bowl. He wasn't able to overcome some of the deficits of, the Greenlaw injury, a couple fumbles, McCaffrey fumble, the fumble, I forget the guy's name on the punt return, right? Like he was unable to overcome that. When on the other side, you had Jalen Hurts, who was able to overcome like everything that was coming their way. Right? I mean, like it was endlessly, and you cannot go Google highlights, go on, on YouTube NFL's page and go watch the Jalen Hurts highlights of that game. He was not carried by his roster for 1 second. I think I watched that more recently, and I think I recall maybe like one catch where I think it was Dallas Goedert. I may be mistaken. That was he was kind of bailed out by just like an unbelievable catch. Otherwise, everything else was Jalen Hurts, perfect ball placement, pinpoint accuracy, him rushing, buying time in the pocket, him moving around, him getting the third down conversions, him willing his way into the end zone for a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So again, to act like that now doesn't help give the Eagles a top roster, because the way how Nick is saying it is like, yeah, this roster is really not that good, and Jalen Hurts is really not that good. Well, then how has Jalen Hurts been able to play at such high levels? And again, enough with the whole idea that he's only had one good season, because that's also just not accurate. It's just not accurate. So it just, yeah, it really is like, I just don't get it. I really don't, because again, if they're not that good, if they really haven't been that great of a team over the last couple of years, and Jalen Hurts is just an average quarterback, and I guess I'll just say this every single video I ever make, is just that, well, then Patrick Mahomes just keeps beating not great teams in Super Bowls. And the only time he faced a great quarterback was Tom Brady, and he lost. Seriously, by Nick's own logic, Patrick Mahomes is yet to beat a great quarterback on a great team. That's his own logic. That's his own logic. I'm not saying that. So do not come at me and say that I'm trying to be a Patrick Mahomes hater. I'm just using Nick Wright's own logic against him. Okay? He doesn't think the Ravens are a top team, and he questions Lamar Jackson. Okay? He questions Josh Allen and that roster and that coaching staff. Okay? He questions Joe Burrow and said that Joe Burrow really only beat him that one time when Patrick Mahomes had the worst half of his career. Okay? He thinks Jimmy Garoppolo is trash. Okay? He thinks Brock Purdy, bottom 16 quarterback. Thinks the Eagles are obviously severely overrated. And that Jalen Hurts is also like a bottom 15, bottom 16 quarterback. Tua, trash, not a good quarterback. So again, if these are the teams that you're beating, then it just seems like then you would actually have to go by, because this is what Tom Brady said. He says that he thinks that the competition in the NFL is incredibly low right now. And that the way how the rules are set up too are make for easier football. So then you're going to have to start to then have the conversation, is Patrick Mahomes only so successful because of the era that he's playing in and because of the lack of talent in the league? I'm not saying that to be true. Let me say that one more time. I'm not saying that to be true. But if we want to play all these games that Nick keeps trying to play, well, then that is the logical conclusion. All these teams aren't good. All these quarterbacks are grossly overrated. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are just way better than all of them. Well, so then it's not impressive that they're beating them. It seems like then Patrick Mahomes just got really fortunate to be on a great team with potentially all-time great players and coaches, while these other teams don't have that, with poor quarterback play or a great roster but an average quarterback, like Nick believes to be the 49ers. Just interesting to me. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you believe Wild's stepping up for the Eagles there? That the Eagles roster is somehow underrated? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.